Hello, this is Hugh.
No,
And
it's
Josh.
Not. No, it's not. You're Josh. Introduce yourself properly, Josh.
I was going to introduce us both. But anyway, we are here to talk frame by frame of how we came up with a classic Western standoff drop. The idea came when we were given a list of words, and the one we chose was drop. And so I was like, I wonder what would happen if we just made a film. We literally just dropped things for like the entirety of a minute or two.
Building on that, I proposed the idea of making it a Western spoof because I rather enjoyed the idea of us overblowing our reactions and dropping progressively larger things with sepia tone and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly music in the background and absurd costumes and all that. So we just sort of played off each other when that all started, and I think it came together quite well.
Okay, the first thing is me waiting in the alleyway. This is me waiting for Hugh to come. I challenged him to a duel and I was already there. And then that's where Hugh's note came in later on. We chose a straight on shot because it shows a little bit of the setting, like the alleyway, a little bit of my expression centered. I don't really know what that is. And to show that I'm waiting later on in the scene, after I'm looking around a little bit to show that I'm like impatient, I look at my watch.
The use of the watch was also lifted from, it's an actual watch that I own and wear consistently, and we thought it would add some comedic effect to the scene if we had him look down at a watch that told him nothing about the time.
He used very impatient characters, so it makes it even funnier. Then I have a reaction shot of me looking at the watch. It's kind of centered. We want a close-up to show the expression, like me actually reacting to the watch. Later in next, we have Hugh coming in from the side.
The shot was filmed in wide shot in order to show the background, establish a setting, and also it ends with me doing a sort of pseudo pose. I have my hand stuffed in my pocket, I'm leaning to one side. It's supposed to be mildly intimidating or come off for comedic effect depending on how you look at it.
What I thought was like you come from the side. The reason why it was centered was because you could see Hugh coming from the side. If you were to see him coming from the distance, it wouldn't have much of an effect. He's showing up to a duel, he has a paper, he has an expression, a confrontational expression, like he wants to challenge him or like he wants to be up front. I don't really know.
Well, one thing that we noticed when looking over the film again is that when it comes to the reaction shots, your character is always a lot more adamant. He's a lot more animated, whereas my character is almost robotic in his complete emotionlessness. He stares you down throughout the entirety of the film. The most emotional he gets is when he drops the textbook, and that's for, I think, 2-3 seconds.
We wanted a shot of us, like one shot of his face and a shot of my face to show sort of like a duel, like there's two different faces, two different people opposing each other in the duel. We kind of reused the frame from later on.
The message written on the paper that I produce literally just says, "Fight me, scrub." It's spelled wrong intentionally. That's, again, for comedic effect. We were originally going with the idea of an honest-to-God duel message, but I thought it would be funnier and still get the point across if we went for a sort of joke. And then I present him with the duel. We both get into our chances. Something fell. And the beginning of the confrontation is when I crumple up the paper and drop it at him.
What I was thinking initially for the paper was that like that was initially how the duel started. Like he got a note that said "Fight me, scrub," and he's gonna challenge that. And so he shows it to him. He's like, "Fight me, scrub."
Indeed. So Josh reacts to the paper being dropped,
Overblown reaction.
and accepts his challenge heartily by drawing a pencil and reciprocating the drop.
We planned it so like we'd never see both of us on camera at once because we had one person on the screen and one person outside the screen actually filming. So we had to try and, instead of like a straight on, maybe like you can show a little bit of the setting like that they're in the same place by sort of like showing a side angle rather than a front on angle like before. And you can also see more clearly what they're dropping, like give a little bit more dimension.
We also took the time to edit each individual drop in a unique way. For example, the pencil falls and makes a sound 3 times to emphasize Josh accepting the challenge.
It's like doing like an extreme power shot, and like when they do the power shot, it happens 3 times because they want to emphasize it. This is weird.
You sound silly.
I am silly.
Anyway, so again, I don't show much of a reaction, and then I get a little mad, drop the textbook. The textbook, we had a shake sound effect too to emphasize how loud and powerful it's supposed to be. It's one-upping the previous drop. And of course, Josh reacts accordingly, looks surprised.
In terms of sound design, we always made every single drop like trying to be a little bit louder. So we had to think of like what to do, pencil or paper first. We chose paper first because the paper starting the conflict, like that's, yeah. But like I think the paper might be louder than the pencil though. We were thinking of doing the pencil first, but
it didn't edit together the right way. That's one minor thing we could have fixed.
We try to have a bigger reaction each time something was dropped.
Yes.
So right now we see me being really angry, and then shaking a chair just to emphasize how angry I really was.
One interesting fact about the piece is that we originally, before we even began filming, we selected the iconic theme from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly as the background music, and when we cut it together, the music actually synced up quite well to the video. For example, when Josh raises the pencil, the drums kick in, and when he starts shaking the chair, the guitar kicks in. And then when he's having his big final reaction, the vocals come in particularly loud. It synced up accidentally, but it worked really well for the overall piece.
We try to change up the angle each time we were like reacting or like dropping something. It would just make like more interesting. Didn't want to see the same thing.
We also used a similar shake effect on the chair in order to emphasize how powerful the hit was, but we made it much stronger than the textbook.
So the next camera angle, I shook the camera.
Yes.
Because the chair was almighty and powerful.
Yes, the huge impact of the chair is followed immediately by a shaky cam shot. That was not an effect. That was merely Josh flailing the camera out. And then, of course, at the very end, and my character sort of admits defeat by dropping his hat. However, Josh's character doesn't immediately realize this, and so he has his most overblown reaction, expecting it to be some sort of big final move that will put him in his grave. And of course, that's the punchline. It's anticlimactic.
It's a hat.
It's a hat. It's a single sound.
I was thinking of it more as like the hat is the most like overrated type of thing that you could like drop. Like the hat is the coolest part of like a cowboy, let's be honest.
Yes, Josh was originally adamant that we had to make the hat somehow the loudest and the most overblown of the drops. But I thought it was, again, funnier if we did it in an anticlimactic way. It makes
It's just a hat, that's the thing.
It makes a nice punchline. And of course, Josh realizes this too. He has a very slow
It's just a hat, guys, for real.
He doesn't quite understand. And then I give him my admittance of defeat, a sort of salute, and I fade off into the background.
But it's also like sort of showing off how cooler he is, or like more nonchalant he is.
He doesn't roll over with his tail between his legs. He gives him a final accepting salute. And,
Good duel, sir.
Yeah, an acknowledgement, if you will, and then wanders off with his hands in his pockets. One final note is that during the credits, where the second song kicks in, I added an intentional shake effect and a black and white filter to try and emulate an old movie skipping. That is when the titles come in.
There's whips for each of the sounds, because that's what a lot of cowboy movies did, or gun sound effects.
Yep, yet again, trying to drive home the Western parody. And also with the font choice. The font choice was ripped straight from an old-fashioned Western movie in order to try and drive home that parallel.